Dude, I've recorded like 4 intros already. I can't do an intro right now. So you know what? You're not gonna get an intro. Well, Knick Knack, the Patty's Whack. Part 3. We have finally made it to part 3. I am a little bit, I'm a twinged bit worried about this episode though. Because the ending of episode 1 and the episode of, and the whole of, all of episode 2 had a very repetitive formula. Basically, it was, have character, Applejack come in, hijinks ensue. Now, it doesn't sound that repetitive, but trust me, it was kind of repetitive. I enjoyed it a lot, but I'm hoping that this episode will not be just that again, considering this is the second to last part. Hopefully not. Also, I have goddamn Hungry Howie's pizza, and instead, like, that is my snack right now. That is my snack. I have, like, 5 slices of goddamn cheese pizza. Not even cooked. Completely raw. Yeah, that's right. No cheese, no tomato sauce, no crust, no bread. Actually, it's invisible. It's just air. It is not even pizza. It is not pizza.
Warning. The following reading contains subject matter that some listeners might find disturbing.
Oh, by the way, I haven't
difficult
uploaded
to
in
hear.
like 2 weeks.
Listener discretion is advised.
Here we go. Yes, this is the intro. Should we, I'm gonna let the intro play. I'm gonna let the intro play. It's been such a long time since we've seen each other. I say seen each other like I'm actually like looking at you, even though I'm not. Some good pizza. For the people who care, where have I been in the last 2 weeks? Stressed out of my mind, doing a lot of freaking work. Been busy as frick. Honestly, just being tired. But hey, I'm back. God, I am feasting right now. I'm just feasting. I'm just feasting. This is, I am the king of my domain right now. I am the king of my domain. Alright, what you got for me this time? What you got for me?
Luna's moon shone directly overhead as a strong autumn wind beat mercilessly against Carousel Boutique. The gusts were powerful and eventually worked their way through small cracks between a window and its sill. Rarity jumped and gasped out in surprise when the pane gave way and opened to the roaring wind outside.
I'm not going to be taking
She
notes
steadied
this
her
time,
breath and trotted to the window to firmly press it back into frame. A voice called out from the room above the boutique and carried down to the nearly empty shop below.
Hey, wait a minute, I'm a voice.
What was that?
Rarity looked up at the staircase with chagrin.
Just the wind, sweetie. You can go back to sleep.
Sweet.
Rarity called to her sister, but received no reply. She bitterly wished she could be like Sweetie Belle right now, warm in bed and drifting off to a contented sleep. But Rarity's...
I mean, we can do that right now if you guys want. Like, I am in my room right now, and I have the bed right next to me. So if you guys want, I could literally just go to sleep right now. Like,
Rarity's tapestries remained unfinished, so she could not afford such a luxury. Instead, Rarity clung to the anticipation of a soft pillow and a proud sense of accomplishment. She just hoped that Luna's moon would still be in the sky by the time it became a reality. With the wind muted, the boutique's ambience quieted to the soft hum of a sewing machine, and the rustles of fabric fed into it with precision. The 13th, and the most elaborate tapestry to date, was nearing its completion. Rarity hoped it, and the many other tapestries she had created, would remain hung in the castle, or perhaps town hall, long after commemoration's conclusion. After all, these weren't silly ice sculptures or party decorations that could be cast aside at the end of the night. These were intricate pieces of art that Ponyville could embrace year-long. At At last, the sewing machine stopped on its final stitch.
Yes!
Rarity carefully pulled the tapestry free from the machine, cut the excess thread, and held it aloft.
Alright, take your guesses. What's it gonna be? What was Rarity making? I already see a flower on there, so I'm guessing it's probably gonna be a dress. That's a good place to start. But what kind of dress? Like, is it a fluffy dress? Is it a silky smooth? Dare I say sexy dress? the three S's? What am I talking about? Also, it's raining outside. It's been a while since we've had rain. You know, those who know the lore know the lore. But, you know, it's been a while, Rain. It's been a while.
Aloft in her magic, she remained stone silent as she stared at the silhouetted depiction of the stallion it bore.
Stallion, that's a
drive and
fourth
determination to complete her task was pushed aside for darker, unwelcome thoughts. She was familiar with these thoughts and memories, and chagrined that they assault her mind now when time was a crucial factor.
Is this Stallion fancy pants?
Like the flow and ebb of waves crashing into a shore, there was no stopping their occasional flooding her consciousness. It was always the same memories, played out like a picture show, incessantly reminding her of the night that changed everything. A night 7 years prior. A night whose secrets she would keep until her dying breath.
Oh my God.
That night began with such hope and confidence in Rarity. After weeks of study and preparation, Twilight was finally ready with a cure. No longer would Rarity have to hear about those massacres found in that once thriving apple orchard.
Okay, this is cool. We're getting more backstory here. We're getting like some more like deeper. No, that's not the word. It's not deeper. We're diving deeper into the whole like how some of the main six feels about, you know, Applejack, you know, becoming a dried sidewalk, basically. Which is great.
Or about the monster that lingered there. A monster that only Twilight and her friends knew to be Applejack. They all gathered at the outskirts of Sweet Apple Acres, and each were given a small syringe of that mysterious remedy. Rarity recalled clutching the syringe tightly in her hoof and feeling an odd reassurance of safety and hope. Her friends all felt varying degrees of anger, fear, and betrayal, but Rarity felt conviction. If this was the cure, it meant that the fault did not lie with the pony, but with the potion. Applejack, the real Applejack, would never allow such monstrosities to occur. To Rarity, she was just an unwilling and unlucky vessel for dark magic to corrupt and possess. Applejack would be found, cured, and their lives would resume with normalcy and peace.
Yeah.
This was the delusion Rarity chose to embrace.
Who's gonna tell her?
So, boldly, Rarity ventured out into that cursed orchard.
So cinematic.
To cover more ground, it had been decided that each friend venture out on their own, though even Rarity felt trepidation at such a prospect. She recalled the eerie silence in those trees.
Like, I see something like look at Twilight, look at the wing, and then like move your eyes upward. There's like oh, that's a well. God, what? I'm like not even a foot away from my screen, and I cannot tell that is a well. Why am I so blind? Why am I actually like have the sight of a blind bat that's like has no eyes in it? I just don't have eyesight. It is not even like my eyes don't eye.
And the uncertain fear that hung in the air. After some time wandering aimlessly, She happened upon a victim yet to be discovered.
That tree
Their
looks like a cherry
desiccated
tree.
corpse was shriveled and dried from the intensity of the heat wave Equestria was suffering. Enough time had passed that wildlife had already picked it clean of tissue and organs, leaving only bones and patches of colored fur behind. The shock and stench of decay brought instant tears to Rarity's eyes. She refused to investigate it further and give an identity to the poor pony victim, but made a mental note instead where to send ponies for the remains on the following day. Rarity swallowed her fear and repulsion and pressed onward. Soon after, she happened on a second undiscovered corpse strewn about the orchard in Rarity's path. Then, a third. Seeing the gruesome death first hoof like this was weakening her resolve and corroding her sympathies. Rarity's hope wavered as dimly as the unicorn magic she used to act as her light in the darkness. Still, she forced her hooves to press onward. She knew she was getting close and was mentally preparing for the shock of what Applejack had become when she found the fourth butchered pony.
God damn it.
At first glance, he was unrecognizable like the others. But the bloodied patch of fur bearing a cutie mark caught Rarity's eye.
Honestly, what would be worse if it was 4.5?
She didn't want to believe it, but her pinprick pupils landed on a torn mustache.
Yeah, rainbow dash?
And finally, a wide and unblinking blue eye whose hue matched perfectly with her own. There was no mistaking him now. Hondo Flanks, her father. An overwhelming sensation of 1,000 pricks of needles assaulted her skin, and the world around her was swaying off-kilter, as if she could not find balance. Seeing some pony she loved, so brutally annihilated, had shattered her resolve and her mind. Had her legs given out? Had she passed out? Had she even screamed at all? Those memories were lost to her.
Bad moment to pause, I know, but I'm curious as to why we're being shown this. Because in a thing like this, everything pretty much has meaning. So I'm like, what is this building up to? You know, like, this is like an episode where, like, I'm gonna be caught off guard. Like, I'm just gonna be chilling. And then just something, like, something's gonna happen. And I'm gonna leave the room. That's what it feels like.
All she could recall was being frozen in grief, and would remain on the orchard floor until she was discovered hours later in that harsh, hot sunlight. Rarity never spoke of that night, not even to Sweetie Belle, whom she learned after the fact had been in those very trees that same evening.
Oh, well, Jesus.
Rarity screamed out again with the same window she'd closed minutes earlier, erupted into a cacophony of shattered glass.
See, this is what I'm talking about. This is literally not even a minute ago. I'm talking about, oh man, I feel so chill right now. I hope I don't get caught off guard. And then just, boom, just shattered window, just jump scare, just strike your Dr. Pepper, and it'll all be okay. Here, what does this thing say? This is words on it. Yeah. Very interesting. I can't read it. Can't read it. That's awesome.
The gust of wind that followed blew out the candles that Rarity had lit to sew by. She put a hoof to her chest to steady her heartbeat as she ignited her horn with magic to light the way. She walked carefully towards the window to inspect what had happened. However, her hooves came to an abrupt halt when she spotted what laid amongst the glass debris. It was small and old, rusted and weather-worn from exposure to the elements. A long, cloudy cylinder held what appeared to be a solidified solution inside. On one end of the cylinder was a broken metallic tip that Rarity knew had once been a long, sharp needle. On the other, a plunger that was now rusted in place and unusable.
Oh, that's a syringe. My dumb brain thought that was a bottle, like you know, like those bottles in cartoons where like they do like they put like the little message in like a bottle and they like ship it through the ocean, you know, just chuck it in the ocean and it's just like it'll find its way to its perfect partner out in the seas. It'll find its soulmate or whatever, something like that. I thought it was one of those things, you know.
She fearfully stepped closer, her mind refusing to believe it could be the very syringe she'd carried all those years ago. Before she could brave a chance to pick it up, however, she could hear a voice above the wind outside.
Lose something?
Oh, yes, I did, actually. Thank you for bringing me back my headphones.
Was both familiar and foreign. Rarity's eyes shut up to see a figure outside the boutique, shrouded in darkness and the haze of new rainfall. Swallowing back the lump in her throat, Rarity raced to the door of the boutique and pulled it open with her magic. She had every intention to confront the unknown assailant for what had happened to her window, but the rain pitter-pattering on the doorstep gave her pause. Getting wet was notably the least of her problems, but the instinct not to venture into it granted her some precious time to think before she acted. Was an encounter with a potential stranger in the dead of night really an intelligent pursuit? Rarity was rapidly weighing her options when the shrouded figure made their presence known and walked with a confident stride towards the door. Rarity realized she'd made a mistake and backed away quickly. She gripped the handle of the door in her magic to slam it shut, but it was too late. The intruder had jutted out their hoof to keep the door open.
Can't run away this time.
Rarity and the intruder were only a few feet from one another, but the aggressor's identity remained a mystery. The only light source at Rarity's disposal was her unicorn magic, but its meager blue tint did not offer her many helpful clues for distinction.
No, I really want to know what's the purpose of like the changing the narration voices and like all the voices. I said this every video. No, not every video. Not every video. I say that in every single video I ever do. Like I'm just like talking about the show Tangled, and then out of nowhere I'm just like, man, I really want to know what's up with those voices in another Apple Sleep experiment. Huh, isn't that strange, guys? Anyway, back to Cassandra being evil. Yeah, but I say that like every video we do on like another Apple Sleep experiment. Every time I talk about the voices. Like I need to come up with something new, something original. Like Mr. Box, but Mr. Box is no longer with us. He's in a greater pasture.
Extinction. Rain had flattened whatever style their mane and tail had been in before the storm, so all Rarity could make out was a strange, sopping wet, pony-shaped figure inching ever closer towards her.
A small inkling started to build in the back of her mind
when she heard that deep, raspy drawl.
Goodness, it's an absolute downpour out there. Come inside, you must be drenched.
Rarity's years of putting on a professional demeanor for customers was serving her well in this terrifying ordeal. She didn't know if this pony was dangerous, or if they could be fooled, but she held firm to the facade. She motioned for the pony to come further inside as
why are you acting like this is a customer? Like, first of all, why am I speaking in a country accent? I guess I'm Applejack now. Like, okay, so like it's like midnight right now. It's probably like midnight. At the Carousel Boutique, you're working late, you're working at night, and it's freaking like pouring outside, and you're just like, yes, this pony sounds like Applejack. It is sopping wet and wants to be in the Carousel Boutique. It's probably a customer. And as I'm saying this, I'm realizing that Rarity probably doesn't even at all think that this is a customer and that I'm just being stupid right now. But you know what? I'm committed to this bit, so I'm going to finish the bit, and I'm finished with the bit now, so yeah.
As she forced a smile.
God, I speak really fast. I need to stop doing that.
Something to drink.
She asked, looking for any excuse to distance herself from this stranger.
Why'd you let me do that, Rares?
Whoa.
Rarity's breath caught in her throat, and her hooves froze in place. Only one pony ever called her Rares. The only pony this couldn't possibly be.
That artwork.
And yet...
Applejack?
Rarity dared to ask. She brightened her horn's glow to take in the details before her. An object barely passing for the term hat was practically in shreds as it laid limp and wet atop the pony's matted mess of a mane.
The eyes this pony had were sunken into her skull. The
Said, almost devoid of color. Her skin sagged in places around her eyes that made her appear far older than she was. It didn't help that the fur itself was paler than the warm orange hue she remembered, like Applejack had been sun-bleached. Rarity glanced away from her face to take in the rest of Applejack's wrinkled, marred fur and hooves. She noted that Applejack's frame was bulkier in places than she remembered, as if the elapsed time apart had been spent honing the strength that was present in Applejack from the beginning. When she let the terrifying reality finally settle, she returned her eyes to AJ's to find a piercing gaze that was firm and bore into Rarity.
Please don't pierce my soul.
Let you do.
Waiting
what?
for pizza? You want some pizza?
I
got slices.
Night, you and I both know what you saw.
Applejack said, taking a step closer to Rarity. She stumbled back a few paces.
Her heart was pounding so violently.
She could feel it in her temples.
Whoa! That small little second. Oh, that was masterful editing. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know virtually nothing about editing, but I can tell I don't know how long it took to like do that little second of just like that difference, but that must have taken forever. Like I feel like that took like just 2 hours to do, maybe even more.
Applejack, I couldn't. I mean...
Rarity scrambled for words. She did indeed know what Applejack was talking about, but she had denied that thought, that reality, for so long that she convinced herself it wasn't true.
I don't know what I saw. I saw my father, that's what I saw.
Applejack cocked her head to the side in confusion, like she wasn't expecting that response.
She moved again, but pushed past a
confused and frightened Rarity to stand at her workstation instead. Applejack reached out with a withered hoof towards the tapestry waiting there and stroked the fabric depiction of Hondo
tapestry.
Flames.
So what?
And she wasn't even making a dress.
You just gave up on saving me then?
No,
I mean, it has been 7 years.
I had every intention. I was just so scared, Applejack. I didn't know if you caught my case or not. I didn't want to be the next victim rotting in your family's orchard.
Rarity pleaded. Images of...
I'm gonna call it now. Kind of unrelated, but I'm gonna call it now. All of the main 6 are going through the same thing that Applejack went through, and that all the destruction that's being caused by Applejack, in quotes, is actually being caused by the main 6 themselves, just like Applejack. That's gonna be the twist. Applejack was never there. Anyway.
Assaulted her mind as she was unable to force back the memory.
She did see Applejack that night.
It was after the discovery of her father's corpse. She theorized later that she must have found her before Twilight or Rainbow Dash had. She could have spared her friends and her sister from what was to transpire that night. Instead, Rarity chose to remain frozen on the ground, while AJ slinked back into the darkness.
It weren't like I was coming at you. If I hadn't seen you, You could have snuck up behind me with that.
Applejack motioned to the broken glass and the old syringe beneath the windowsill. Rain was pouring in from outside, and a clap of thunder roared into the dimly lit room.
Rarity was at a loss for words. She'd had that very thought time and time again.
New narrator.
Only now it was made real by the pony she failed to cure.
What's your name?
You didn't by chance see what happened to Dash? Why? What about them youngins, huh? Scootaloo. Did you see how it affected your sister?
Applejack asked. Rarity knew she was dancing around the gut punch,
I think
but
it
that it
stopped
was coming.
outside.
Applejack stared Rarity down, as if she was waiting for Rarity to mention the name of the final pony present at that horrible scene. When Rarity didn't respond, Applejack's demeanor instantly changed. She took the tapestry in her bare hooves and tore at the fabric, ripping into it as easily as tearing a piece of parchment.
No! Applejack, please!
I can do that. Hold on, give me a second. Acting like I can't rip up a piece of paper. What is this, preschool?
Please!
Rarity pleaded again, frantic this time and reaching out for her ruined tapestry.
What happened, Rares? What happened because you didn't cure me sooner? Tell me! I want to hear you say it!
Applejack tore into the tapestry again, but Rarity lowered the hoof she'd raised in protest. Guilt had encompassed her, and she no longer had the will to stop AJ from her destruction.
This feels really tame. No, really. No, like... Twilight. With Twilight, AJ caused, like, a whole entire fire, destroyed and a whole entire lab. Like, pretty much destroyed. Like, exploded a whole entire section of Twilight's castle. Got super speed and super strength. Killed Starlight. Went to Pinky's. Set fire to Sugar Cube Corner. Killed, like, I think it was 2 ponies. I think it was just the cakes, if I remember correctly. With the Fluttershy's, completely controlled all of Fluttershy's animals. And then made all the animals just rip Fluttershy to shreds. All while doing, like, the most intense emotional manipulation ever. And Applejack goes to Rarity's, and she's just like, "Oh, I'm gonna rip up this tapestry." Just go, like it feels so tame. Like, why? Why though?
Rarity took a couple of steps back, with her ears flat against her head. Eventually, she turned away completely, refusing to watch Applejack make tatters of her father's likeness.
Oh, I see. You're still lying to yourself, ain't you? You still think you're innocent.
No, I am not innocent. I know what I didn't do, and what I could have done.
Rarity snapped, bitter defeat in her tone. She'd suppressed this shame for years, but knew eventually she would have to confront it. She just hadn't expected to do so like this.
Say her goddamn name, Rares.
Rarity looked up, in shock, to see Applejack standing on the other side of the room when she hadn't heard her make a single hoof step. She whirled back to see the remains of her father's tapestry, before realizing Applejack wasn't satisfied with just one tapestry.
Applejack, please. I know you're angry with me, but you don't have to do this.
Say her name!
Applejack screamed, tearing another tapestry down the center. When she did, Rarity's all-consuming guilt morphed itself into anger.
Stop it!
Rarity screamed, using her magic to rip the tapestry from AJ's grasp, exacerbating the damage. Applejack continued her destruction, while Rarity desperately tried to stop her.
I'm not the one who took dangerous magic from Twilight. I'm not the one who didn't heed her warning. I'm not the one who slaughtered bony after bony on my
You
family's
gave
property.
it to her
I'm the one who
straight.
tried to kill our friends.
Damn right.
It wasn't my fault.
Damn straight. Thank you, Rarity. Thank you. It was not your fault. Rarity had, like, nothing to do with any of it. Was Rarity even in the original? She was. I don't remember what Rarity did. She was there, but just...
Applejack stopped suddenly at the mention of her sister's name. After a long pause, she looked up at Rarity with tired, soulless eyes.
There now. Was that so hard?
The gathered tapestries
Are
in
we
Applejack's
breaking the
hooves
formula?
were then unceremoniously dropped, and she walked away from their remains. Rarity seized the opportunity and raced to protect them from further harm.
She fought back the urge
Urged
to
to sob as she
gathered
gathered weeks of ruined work into her hooves. Silent tears fell onto their shreds, but they weren't shed for the loss of art. No, these tears were for her returning guilt, unearthed and unyielding.
Rarity?
Rarity's head snapped up the second that Sweetie
Alright,
spoke.
here's
Sweetie was
the
standing at the base of the
other
staircase,
trauma.
Looking from one side of the room to the other.
taking in the sight before her.
When her eyes fell on Applejack,
She screamed in unadulterated fear and sprinted back up the steps.
Well,
something dark and evil started growing in Applejack's sinister expression.
Rarity didn't know what it meant,
But she knew to be afraid.
Another
She
one
tried
bites
to
the dust.
scramble to her hooves to stop AJ from whatever she was planning to do next, but was caught up in the tapestry's tatters.
Applejack, this is between you and me. You leave Sweetie out of this. I'm guilty, all right? It's my fault. Just leave her alone.
Rarity screamed, her voice cracking as she ignited her horn with magic. She levitated
cut her.
anything within magical reach to hover around her as
Actually fight her,
makeshift
please.
weapons.
Hoping it would be enough to intimidate Applejack.
Sewing scissors, pins, bolts of fabric, needles, and even the sewing machine itself hovered around the frightened unicorn as she kept fighting to be freed from the mess of her ruined art.
You'll never understand my pain.
Applejack said coldly, her icy gaze falling on the scrambling unicorn without a hint of concern.
I lost my sister, so maybe you won't understand until you lose yours.
A frightfully similar sensation took hold of Rarity at the sound of those words. Those 1,000 needle pricks and the nauseating swaying assaulted her body as it had 7 years prior. It was all she could do to remain upright as she watched Applejack ascend the steps after her sister like a bolt of frenzied lightning.
No. Rarity.
what pattern is... I feel like that's supposed to be in the shape of something, but I'm not sure. It's like a little ball, like... Reminds me of like those, you know those like dubstep songs? Good example of this would be the channel Dubstep Gutter. But like they have like the circle and then they have like the bar lines around like the circle, you know, and it's kind of like the wow wow wow. You know what I'm talking about, you know. The wow wow.
Rarity wouldn't succumb. She couldn't succumb. She'd left Sweetie Belle in danger once before,
And this was her one and only chance to rectify that mistake.
with an outcry of fear, Rarity thrust every object she'd held aloft in her magic after the fleeing Earth Pony. She didn't wait to see if any of them had had any success before building up her magic for a second blast. The resounding explosion of light and destruction eviscerated the tapestries that held her down. There was no time to feel any regret for the loss, as Sweetie Belle's distant screams urged her forward with single-minded determination. She raced up the steps, 2 at a time, her tiring magic building for a third blast. She had just reached the doorway to Sweetie Belle's room when
Applejack opened the door and slammed herself into it.
As a result, The door lambasted Rarity with enough force to send her careening down the hallway.
Damn!
Magic sputtered as Rarity screamed out in agony. She roughly collided headfirst into an adjacent wall. Through the cacophony of shrieking, dissonant tones, Rarity could have sworn she heard something crack. There was no word for the pain of it all, just a continuous and searing white-hot agony that threatened her consciousness with every passing second.
Still, Rarity refused to give in
to the comfort of darkness. She couldn't fail her loved ones. Not again. Not ever again.
Why?
Applejack's screams were barely audible over Rarity's pain, but she latched onto them as an anchor in reality.
Adrenaline wouldn't pump through her veins forever, so she had to act now. Then came the sound of Sweetie Belle's garbled cries.
She's still
More
alive?
anchors, this time pulling her to stand again. Her legs shook, each step a renewed tidal wave of needle pricks with increasing intensity. She kept going. This was a pain she'd wish on no pony,
At least let them,
enemy or
die together or
otherwise.
something.
But she refused to relent. Her sight was greatly impaired, and her equilibrium suffered even worse. She fell flat on the ground, darkness encroaching. A single stream of blood flowed from somewhere above her eyes, coloring her vision in crimson before she swiftly wiped it away. Gritting her teeth, she crawled onward, then pushed herself up to her hooves and stumbled forward haltingly.
The distance to Sweetie's
room was the most lengthy and languishing journey
But you're gonna make it. She's gonna make it.
experienced. Finally, the opened door was within reach. As her hoof outstretched for the handle, hoping to steady herself with it, she caught sight of her sewing scissors. They had been part of the weapons she'd flung after Applejack, and, in a pinch, they would serve her just fine. She attempted to ignite her horn and hold them aloft,
Wait,
but her magic refused to respond. Rarity let out a winded sob, gathering the scissors and hoof.
Where's Applejack right now?
feeling of the cold, weighty metal in her grasp. It was almost
Identical to what it had been like that night with the syringe. The past had caught up with her at last, and her greatest mistake was played out before her again with a choice. Rarity's mind was made up. With a frenzied cry, Rarity rounded the corner into Sweetie Belle's room.
Applejack was waiting for her there, their hooves colliding together at the same moment as a clap of thunder roared outside. The pair struggled for control of the weapon in the darkness, and Rarity couldn't help but notice the absence of Sweetie Belle's voice. She could only hope by the princess's grace that Sweetie was unconscious, but all right. With each agonizing second, Rarity's strength waned. She was losing the fight, and she knew it. In a fit of hysteria, she pulled away from Applejack, allowing her to keep the sewing scissors. However, Rarity thrust out her hoof when Applejack attempted to take a step. Much to her surprise, AJ's footing caught hold, and it sent the earth pony barreling to the ground. Rarity could only watch in shock through bleary vision as the scissors were propelled out of hoof and skid in Rarity's direction. This hadn't been the way she wanted it to end. There was so much left unspoken, so much still unknown. She didn't even know who was killing her now, a mare or a monster. But Rarity couldn't riddle out her morality. She wasn't giving herself the choice. This was...
I'm sorry, I heard mare, monster, and morality in the same sentence, and my brain immediately jumped to Pegasus device because I had to write a 4,000 word... I wrote a 4,000 word essay for, on the book Pegasus device. Yes, the physical fanfic version of the Pegasus device. You know, the Rainbow Factory thing. Yeah, I wrote an official IB. If you don't know what IB is, it's a like advanced school program or whatever. On an MOP fanfic. Take that, scrubs. But yeah, and part of my essay was talking about like the kind of the duality of Scootaloo being like both like the sister Rainbow Dash loved as well as just a monster. You know, she sees both in her eyes, and she can't. Her loyalty to the factory, it clashes. You know, it brings this whole conflict and everything. There's a whoever says MOP fanfics can't have like serious or complicated, nuanced themes is stupid, because Pegasus Device is literally it disproves that. Because if you read Pegasus Device with the intention of finding something to like grasp onto and really just like dive deep into the meaning of it and just like expand and explore that concept within that book, there's a lot to talk about. Like Pegasus Device, it's not like perfect. You know, of course it's not perfect. Like, it's certainly got a good number of flaws, but it's pretty freaking good. It's pretty well written, you know. There's a lot to it.
It was a kill or be killed situation, so she was going to commit. Rarity's body screamed in pain as she forced herself up on her hind legs, syringe held aloft. No.
What are you talking about
syringe,
now?
not scissors.
There was a sense of falling.
I'm like, where did the scissors go?
And the pony wielding them thrust downward. Rarity braced herself for the impact with her victim, but the far more frightening surprise was the
Sorry, pause. I know, I'm so sorry. But, okay, I have a little bit of a thought here. The scissors are kind of connected to the syringe at this point. So I'm thinking, like, what if, maybe it's like a symbol for, like, Rarity thinking that the syringe was kind of, like, killing AJ in a way? I'm not sure how that would really work with what we know about the original Applejack experiment. But maybe she was worried about something with a syringe, you know, because it was kind of... Wasn't it also made by Twilight, if I remember correctly? I'm sorry, my brain is really, really scrambled. But, because the Twilight gave the potion to Applejack, you know, and it kind of messed up AJ. So having Twilight make a cure, Rarity might be kind of just like, okay, but what if this also doesn't work? What if this just makes it worse? You know, hence the scissors. You know, if you stab somebody with scissors, it's not going to make anything better. It's going to make things worse. So, you know, just a thought, just throwing that out there.
awkward stab hitting not pony, but floorboard.
Super speed. Even though she probably doesn't even have super speed.
Rarity
right
released the scissors as her body rolled to the side, senses screaming.
Somehow, Applejack had maneuvered out of the way of the final blow.
For the time being, the world was spinning too violently for Rarity to find the right footing to stand. As each second passed, dread built in the unicorn's veins. She could only will her body on for so long before it would refuse to respond, and she was dancing around that last shred of consciousness.
Somewhere in her stupor, Rarity's ears twitched to the sound of thundering hoofsteps descending the stairs, followed by the sound of a door opening and slamming shut again. Applejack hadn't remained to finish her off, as she had expected.
She just
Rarity slowly rolled onto her back, having to blink through the stream of blood obscuring her vision. She tried again to ignite her horn, and this time magic hiccuped to a dull light. Even just the act of turning her head to the side sent waves of piercing pain through Rarity. By some stroke of luck, she found what she was looking for right away. Sweetie Belle.
Hey,
Rarity
sweetie.
gasped out in relief to find her sister so nearby.
She's dead.
Rarity beheld the horror of her little sister's face, and that relief vanished. Sweetie Belle's mouth hung open slightly, blood pooling there from unseen damage within. It leaked onto the floorboards and soaked her purple and pink mane. All Rarity could see was frozen fear in those damp, milky, and lifeless eyes. She whimpered, her horn's magic extinguishing on its own, sparing her from seeing more of what had become of her baby sister. There she was
Dude,
again,
the freaking music
frozen in
box song
fear
is...
and grief on the ground, while the remains of her family rotted away beside her. This time, however, Rarity didn't get to see the stars or feel a night wind blow. She had to mire in the smell of fresh blood and viscera, unseen but potent. Darkness was the only mercy left to Rarity, but even that lasted only for so long. A great flash of lightning from outside the boutique lit the room, and it was then that Rarity beheld what atrocity
Applejack had left behind.
The acrid smells in the room weren't just coming from the corpse beside her, but from the very walls and ceiling. For even in that second of light, Rarity could see something scrawled over and over with her dear sister's blood. The red of it was still oozing and dripping freely, making it sound as if the rain outside had leaked into the room. Another flash as Rarity's eyes beheld
the final judgment that Applejack had laid on Rarity for her crimes.
Guilty, guilty. Hoof-written and frantic, and found all over the walls, the ceiling, the canopy bed, the fixtures, and some furniture. Rarity didn't have the strength to make a single sound at this macabre sight. She couldn't even properly comprehend it, now that the sharp pains, once kept at bay by adrenaline, came roaring into focus. Rarity's heartbeats echoed the sentiment she now felt for her sister's untimely demise.
Dare I make an Ace Attorney joke?
Guilty.
Ooh. Guilty.
Thunder clapped and the lightning split the sky, but Cloudsdale's Cloudaceum was...
Okay. I'm gonna call that the end of the Rarity section. I have some thoughts right now. I'm gonna lay out some thoughts here right now. I'm gonna lay out some thoughts, and then we're gonna end the video, and you guys can join me in part 2, which you probably won't, but that's okay. Okay. I have some problems here. Remember that worry that I said at the beginning of the video that that this formula that they're kind of doing, I was hoping that they would kind of like change it up. Starting over. Let's start over a little bit. Okay. So we have the repeating formula of Applejack coming to to one of the main six's homes, basically causing a lot of mischief, killing them in gruesome ways, and basically, making them feel guilty, kind of bringing up the past of, why didn't you save me, all that kind of stuff. They kill one of their beloveds. They kind of mess up their home a bit. Applejack does that. And yeah, there's the voices and all that kind of stuff. It's the same general formula, and we've had this done 4 times now. And I know that the finale is going to stray away from this formula eventually. See, I understand that a lot of this is probably necessary to really drive home the meaning and the message that they're going for this story here. I understand that. I understand there's a lot of meaning with these voices and how each interaction with the different main 6 have the same layout, but have a lot of smaller things changed, smaller/big things changed about them, and things that are consistent are important here. But it makes me less invested, because what made those first ones so special and so oh wow, I'm really interested and invested in this, is because it's the first time you're going through it. It feels fresh, and you're first hearing the voices and you're oh, that's really cool. It sticks with you it's meant to stick with you, you know? So you're gonna remember that. But the thing is that it keeps being reused, and each time it gets that same kind of voice bit gets reused, it loses its impact. It doesn't feel like, it doesn't have that shock or wow factor anymore. And it just makes me like, well, okay, well, I still don't know what's the point of this. This is cool and all, but I still don't know what the point of this is. And when I'm not really interested in it, when I've been hearing it a lot, I'm not as interested in it, and I still don't know the meaning to it, so I'm just like, okay, we're just going through this again. And I'm not saying it's bad, because it's really, really good. Like, if you everything about the editing, to the voice acting, to the artwork, to just the way everything's paced and written, it's all really good. But I'm losing that interest because it just feels like a general scene that's really good, but it's been copy and pasted multiple times, but changed to fit one of the main 6. And that's, I hate, why? Like, I want to love it, and I don't want to hate it. Like, I'm in this weird middle where I'm just like, I don't hate it, but I also don't love it. Like, like, I hope, because this is probably going to be Rainbow Dash, and I hope that this will really change it up. Really just give me that, yes, this is what I'm looking for. Because these first 32 minutes and 16 seconds, I really liked the backstory, because the backstory was a change of pace, more fresh, different, and all that kind of stuff. But just, I want something different, I want something different. And here's another thing. Having, like, the same kind of scene done multiple times, it feels like it just drags out the story, like, first Double Sleep Experiment was very contained, and, like, it told its story in, like, only, like an hour and 15 minutes or whatever, how long it was, and it worked really well with the time it was given. But this feels like it's just being dragged out, and, like, it really doesn't need 4 parts. Like, I feel like this could be done in, like, 2 or 3 parts, But hey, that's just me, that's just me. I don't really know how to end this video, so I'm just prove to you guys again that I can rip a piece of paper.